The Mazarian Imperium had ruled the stars for over 300 years. They had conquered 17 species across 42 star systems. None had been able to resist their technological superiority for long. Commander Taehyun stood on the bridge of the Mazarian flagship *, Inevitable Conquest *, watching the small blue-green whirl through the main view screen. Primitive communications, primitive weapons, primitive ships, he said, his scaled fingers tapping against the command console. These humans have barely left their home system. Proxima Centauri rotated slowly below, the small human colony visible as a cluster of lights on the night side of the planet. Intelligence had confirmed only 50,000 settlers lived there, the first wave of human expansion beyond their solar system. Officer Ju approached Taehyun with caution. She was younger than most senior officers, but her tactical mind had earned her this position on the flagship. "Commander, I've analyzed the human broadcasts we intercepted," Ju said. "Their entertainment programs show unusual adaptability and combat thinking. I recommend caution in our approach." Taehyun's mouth flaps twitched in amusement. "You fear these primitives. They've only achieved faster than light travel in the last 30 years. The colony below doesn't even have orbital defenses worth mentioning." "It's not fear, Commander," Ju said. "It's prudence. We know very little about their homeworld conditions or evolutionary path." Taehyun waved his hand dismissively. "These creatures barely managed space travel. Their colony is hardly worth our attention. We'll give them the standard ultimatum. They'll surrender like all the others." Down on the planet's surface, Colonel Hyunwoo was enjoying a rare moment of peace. The colony had just celebrated its 3rd anniversary, and the terraforming was ahead of schedule. The first children born on a world beyond Earth were now taking their first steps under an alien sun. The alarm shattered the calm morning. Hyunwoo rushed to the colony's command center, where officers were already gathering around the main display. "Unidentified vessel in orbit," reported his second-in-command. "Massive energy readings. Nothing like we've ever seen. They're broadcasting some kind of message." The screen flickered, revealing a humanoid alien with scaled skin, vertical pupils, and breathing flaps where a human would have a nose and ears. "People of Earth's colony," the translation software interpreted. "I am Commander Taehyun of the Mazarian Imperium. Your world now falls within our territory. Surrender your colony and submit to Mazarian rule, or face immediate destruction. You have 1 hour to respond." The command center fell silent. Hyunwoo studied the alien's features, the advanced technology visible in the background. Earth had never encountered intelligent alien life before. First contact was happening on his watch, and it was a threat. "Open a channel," Hyunwoo ordered. When the connection was established, he stood straight and spoke clearly. "This is Colonel Hyunwoo, leader of the Proxima Centauri colony. We come in peace from Earth, but we will not surrender our home. We request peaceful discussions." The alien cut the transmission. On the Mazarian flagship, Taehyun turned to his weapons officer. They refused to submit. Typical of newly discovered species, they must learn respect. His mouth flaps curved into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Target their major population centers. Show them the consequences of defiance." Ju stepped forward. "Commander, standard protocol suggests a demonstration strike on an uninhabited area first." "Are you questioning my orders, officer?" Taehyun's voice dropped dangerously low. Ju hesitated, then bowed her head. "No, Commander." "Good. Begin the bombardment." The Mazarian ship's weapon systems hummed to life. Great cannons extended from its hull, glowing with energy. The first salvo hit the colony's small spaceport, vaporizing it instantly. The second struck the power generation facility. The third hit the residential district. In the colony command center, chaos erupted as the first impacts shook the ground. "Evacuate to the emergency bunkers." Hyunwoo shouted over the alarms. "Get everyone underground." The communications officer, Jo-yeon, worked frantically at her console. "Sir, the main antenna array is still operational, but they're jamming most frequencies. We have minutes at most before they hit us here. Send a message to Earth, Hanwoo ordered. Tell them everything. Send all the scan data we have on their ship. The building shook violently as another impact hit nearby. Ceiling panels crashed down, and emergency lighting flickered on as the main power failed. Everyone out now, Hanwoo shouted. Get to the bunkers. Jai-Yen's fingers flew across her console. Almost done, sir. Hyunwoo grabbed her shoulder. Time to go, Lieutenant. Just need tow. Another explosion. Closer this time. Got it. Message is sending. They ran for the exit as the building began to collapse around them. They made it to the hallway when a direct hit struck the command center. The blast threw them forward. Hyunwoo hit the wall hard and felt something crack in his chest. When his vision cleared, he saw Jo-yeon pinned under a fallen support beam, blood pooling beneath her. Go, sir, she gasped. I can't feel my legs. I'm not leaving you, Hyunwoo said, trying to lift the beam. The message is still transmitting, Jai-Yen said. If they jam it, Earth won't know what happened. She pulled her sidearm and pressed it into his hand. I'll buy you time. Someone has to survive to tell them what we're facing. Another explosion rocked the building. The exit was still 20 meters away. That's an order, sir, Jai-Yen said with a pained smile. Someone has to warn Earth. Hyunwoo squeezed her hand once, then ran for the exit. Behind him, he heard Jai-Yeon working on her damaged console. On the Mazarian ship, Taehyun watched with satisfaction as the colony burned. Sir, a communications officer called out. We're detecting a transmission to the human homeworld. Jam it, Taehyun ordered. Working on it, sir, but they're using multiple frequencies and some kind of encryption we haven't seen before. Taehyun growled in frustration. Target the source of the transmission. In the ruined command center, Jai-Yen saw the targeting alert on her damaged console. She knew she had seconds at most. She added one final line to the automated message. They think we're weak. Show them how wrong they are. She hit send just as the Mazarian weapon found its mark. The command center disappeared in a flash of light and heat. Hyunwoo, now a kilometer away and headed for the emergency bunker, saw the explosion. He knew Jai-Yen was gone. Around him, the colony that had been humanity's pride was now a smoking ruin. Thousands dead in less than an hour. On the Mazarian flagship, Taehyun turned to his communications officer. Send a message to their homeworld. Tell them to prepare for conquest. We will arrive in their system within one of their years. Yes, Commander, the officer replied. Officer Ju stood silently at her station, watching the burning colony below. In all their conquests, no species had ever refused the ultimatum on their first colony world. Usually, it took the more established worlds to show such defiance. These humans were different somehow. She made a note to study them more carefully. Set course for the next system, Taehyun ordered. The humans will provide little challenge, but proper protocol must be followed. As the Mazarian ship moved away from Proxima Centauri, none of them realized what they had just started. None of them understood that humanity had evolved on a death world as persistence predators, with a unique capacity for adaptation, innovation, and warfare that the galaxy had never seen. None of them knew they had just declared war on the worst possible species, and that was a big mistake. The message from Proxima Centauri arrived at Earth Defense Headquarters at 3:47 a.m. It played on a continuous loop in the darkened Situation Room, where Director Minjae sat alone, watching the destruction of humanity's first interstellar colony over and over again. They think we're weak. Show them how wrong they are. Those final words from Communications Officer Jo-yeon haunted him. The data package attached to the message contained scans of the alien vessel, intercepts of their communications, and the brief exchange before the bombardment began. When the emergency council assembled 2 hours later, Minji's expression was stone cold. 50,000 dead, he said simply. Our colony wiped out in less than an hour by an alien force calling themselves the Mazarian Imperium. The room fell silent as he played the footage. The massive alien ship, the ultimatum, the bombardment, the final desperate message. "So we're at war," said Admiral Yunji, breaking the silence, "with an enemy technologically superior to us, an enemy that controls dozens of star systems." Minji nodded. "That appears to be the case." General Sungo, head of Earth's combined military forces, studied the technical data on his tablet. "Their energy weapons are beyond anything we've developed. Their shields would make our current weapons ineffective." "Then we need better weapons," said Do-Yun, the lead scientist from the Advanced Research Division. She was younger than most in the room, but her brilliant mind had earned her a place at the table. "The scans show some interesting vulnerabilities in their ship design." "How long until they reach Earth?" asked someone. "Based on their propulsion signatures, roughly 11 months, Minji answered. The defense leaders began talking all at once. Attack strategies, evacuation plans, surrender options. Minji raised his hand for silence. "They expect us to respond with direct confrontation, to throw everything we have at them when they arrive. We'll do something different." "What do you propose?" Sungo asked. "We don't wait for them to come to us," Minji said. "We take the fight to them. Now." "With what?" Admiral Yunji asked. "Our ships aren't fast enough to reach their territory before they reach us." Minji smiled for the first time. "We've been developing experimental stealth ships with advanced propulsion systems. The program was classified. 3 vessels are ready." 3 ships against an empire." Someone scoffed. 3 ships they won't see coming," Minji replied. "We don't target their military assets. We target their supply lines. Their infrastructure. We make them look over their shoulders." Sunho nodded slowly. "Psychological warfare. Guerrilla tactics on a cosmic scale." "Exactly," said Minji. "Meanwhile, we adapt their technology based on the scans from Proxima. We prepare Earth's defenses, and we show these Miserians that they've made a terrible mistake." 3 weeks later, the stealth ship Silent Hunter dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of a star system controlled by the Miserians. Captain Jinho and his crew of 20 were the first humans to travel this far into space. Their mission: disrupt Miserian fuel processing facilities without being detected. Passive scans only, Jinho ordered as they drifted silently toward the gas giant where the Miserians had built their refineries. 6 Miserian ships in orbit, reported his sensor officer. Minimal defenses on the refineries themselves. They're not expecting trouble here. Jinho studied the holographic display. They've never been attacked in their own territory before. They don't know what it means to be hunted. The Silent Hunter moved through the system like a ghost, its revolutionary stealth systems masking its heat signature and distorting light around its hull. They approached the largest refinery, a massive structure extracting valuable gases from the planet below. "Deploy the drones," Jinho ordered. Tiny unmanned craft, each no bigger than a human hand, slipped from the ship's launch bay. Guided by the Silent Hunter's eye, they attached themselves to key structural points across the refinery. "Drones in position," reported the tactical officer, "ready to trigger on your command." "Set timers for 30 minutes, Jinho said. "That gives us time to move to the second target." The Silent Hunter slipped away toward an orbital transfer station nearby. More drones deployed, more timers set. As they moved toward their third target, the first explosions began. The refinery's main processing hub erupted in a ball of flame. Secondary explosions cascaded through the structure as fuel lines ruptured. The transfer station followed moments later, breaking apart in a spectacular series of detonations. On the Miserian command ship in orbit, Sub-Commander Kyung stared in disbelief at the destruction below. "What happened?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," replied his second. "No ships detected. No warning. The refinery just exploded." "That's impossible," Kyung snapped. "Check again." As they argued, more explosions blossomed across the system. a storage facility, a communications array, a docking station, all critical infrastructure, all exploding without warning. They attack like ghosts, Kyung reported to Miserian High Command hours later. They strike where we least expect and vanish before we can respond. We detected nothing on our sensors, nothing at all. Back on Earth, Do-hyun and her team of scientists worked day and night analyzing the Miserian technology from the Proxima Centauri scans. They had set up in a vast underground facility, protected from potential orbital bombardment. Their shield technology operates on a frequency modulation we've never seen before, Do-hyun explained to Min-jae during a progress briefing. But it has a fatal flaw. She pointed to a simulation showing a Miserian ship. They cycle their shields through 12 frequency bands. If we can time our weapons to hit during the microsecond transition between bands 6 and 7, the shields fail completely. Can we build weapons that precise? Min-jae asked. We already have prototypes, Do-hyun said with a tired smile. She hadn't slept in 3 days. And there's more. Their armor alloy contains traces of a rare element we've discovered is highly reactive with a compound we can synthesize. Meaning we can create projectiles that burn through their hull like acid through paper once they penetrate the shields. Min-jae nodded with satisfaction. How long until we can deploy these technologies? 2 months for the shield-penetrating weapons, 4 for the reactive projectiles. We're also developing countermeasures against their scanning technology based on our stealth ship systems. Over the next 6 months, humanity transformed. Factory production shifted to war materials. New shipyards constructed vessels incorporating the stolen Miserian technology. Training programs prepared soldiers for potential ground combat against an unknown enemy. Unlike the rigid, hierarchical Miserians, humans organized a decentralized response. Independent cells developed different technologies and tactics. If one approach failed, others would continue. Earth became a planet preparing not just to defend itself, but to win a war. Meanwhile, the stealth ships continued their campaign of disruption. The Silent Hunter and its sister ships, Shadow Striker and Phantom Blade hit targets across 6 Miserian-controlled systems, fuel refineries, communication hubs, supply depots. Nothing large enough to cripple the Miserian war machine, but enough to create confusion and fear. Miserian commanders began increasing security at all facilities. Ships that should have been preparing for the attack on Earth were diverted to protect supply lines. Paranoia spread through their ranks as the invisible enemy struck again and again without warning. In his command center, General Sungo reviewed the reports from the stealth ships with satisfaction. The Miserians think in straight lines, he told his officers. Attack, conquer, move on. They've never faced an enemy that thinks laterally. Our latest intelligence suggests they're delaying their attack on Earth, said his intelligence officer. They're searching for our stealth ships instead. Sung-ho smiled. Good. Every day they delay is another day we prepare. As the 11th month approached, Earth was ready. Orbital defense platforms surrounded the planet, armed with weapons specifically designed to target Miserian vulnerabilities. The fleet had grown to hundreds of ships, smaller than Miserian vessels, but faster and equipped with the new shield-penetrating technology. And still, the ghost ships haunted Miserian territory, striking without warning, vanishing without trace. The Miserians had expected a primitive species cowering in fear. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that adapted with terrifying speed, that studied their every weakness, that fought in ways they couldn't comprehend. They had declared war on humanity, thinking they had found easy prey. They were wrong. Commander Tae-hyun stood before the Miserian High Council, his scaled skin pale with stress. The human response is unexpected, he admitted. We destroyed their colony at Proxima Centauri as planned. But since then, they have not behaved as conquered species typically do. Explain, demanded High Counselor Ranu. the oldest and most decorated war leader of the Mazarian Imperium. They have not attempted direct engagement with our superior forces. Instead, they use these ghost ships. We cannot detect them. They strike our supply facilities and disappear. The council chamber remained silent as the implications sank in. "This changes nothing," said Councillor Randu at last. "If they will not face us honorably, we will force them to fight. Identify the remaining outposts and destroy them." 3 days later, a Mazarian battle group dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Europa, a small human research base in their home solar system. Commander Kyung led the assault, expecting an easy victory like Proxima Centauri. "Scans show minimal defenses," reported his tactical officer. "Only 50 life signs detected." "Begin the attack," Kyung ordered. "No ultimatum this time." The Mazarian ships opened fire on the small base built into the icy moon's surface. Their energy weapons carved deep trenches in the ice, vaporizing structures and equipment. When the bombardment finished, Kyung ordered ground troops to secure the area and capture any survivors for interrogation. "Strange," muttered the sensor officer as the troops descended. "I'm now reading 0 life signs." Kyung frowned. "Check again." "Still 0, sir." It's as if they vanished. The first squad of Mazarian soldiers reached the ruined base entrance. "Command, this is Ground Team Alpha. No signs of bodies or blood. Base appears evacuated." "Impossible," Kyung snapped. "We detected 50 humans minutes ago." "Sir," the squad leader reported, "we're finding unusual devices throughout the transmission cut off abruptly. On Kyung's view screen, the base erupted in a blinding explosion. Then another. Then dozens more, precisely placed charges detonating in sequence, each triggering the next. The entire region of Europa's surface collapsed inward, taking the Mazarian ground forces with it. "It was a trap," Kyung whispered in disbelief. "They knew we were coming." Similar scenes played out at Mars Base 1 and the asteroid mining facility at Ceres. Mazarian forces arrived to find facilities that appeared occupied on scans, but were empty when troops landed. Each was rigged with traps that killed hundreds of Mazarian soldiers and damaged several ships. Field Commander Kyung survived to deliver his report to the War Council personally. "These humans," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "operate in environments we can't even breathe in." The Europa base was at -170°C. The Mars base was in a dust storm that would strip the scales from our bodies, and the Ceres facility had radiation levels that should have killed any living thing. "How do they survive such conditions?" asked Councillor Ranu. "They adapt," Kyung replied. "They create technologies to overcome their biological limitations, and they adapt to our tactics faster than we can implement them." While the Mazarians struggled to understand this new kind of enemy, Admiral Junho of Earth's Special Operations Command prepared for the next phase of humanity's response. "The defensive traps worked perfectly," he told his gathered team leaders. "The Mazarians lost nearly 1,000 troops and 3 ships without inflicting a single human casualty." Lieutenant Seojin, leader of Strike Team Delta, leaned forward. "When do we take the offensive to their core worlds?" "Now," Junho replied, bringing up a holographic display of a Mazarian-controlled system. "Intelligence has identified a major refueling station on this moon orbiting the gas giant in the Altair system. It's critical to their supply lines. Taking it out will delay their planned assault on Earth by months." Seojin studied the hologram. "Heavy security. The heaviest. After our ghost ship campaign, they've tripled defenses at all major facilities. This one has a full battalion of troops and automated defense systems. So they'll detect any ship approaching." Seojin said thoughtfully. "Correct. Which is why you won't be using a ship." Junho smiled. "At least, not all the way." 2 weeks later, a small asteroid drifted toward the Mazarian refueling station. Sensors noted it, classified it as natural debris, and continued their sweeps for human vessels. No alarm sounded as the asteroid passed through the outer defense perimeter. Inside the hollowed-out rock, Lieutenant Seojin and his 12-person strike team checked their equipment one final time. Each wore an advanced environmental suit that would protect them from the moon's toxic atmosphere. An atmosphere deadly to humans, but perfectly breathable for Miserians. Remember, Seojin told his team, we have a 2-hour window to plant the charges and extract. The asteroid's trajectory will take it back out of sensor range, where our pickup will be waiting. The asteroid settled into the lunar surface 3 kilometers from the facility, unnoticed amid the natural debris that constantly showered the moon. Seojin and his team emerged from hidden compartments and began their approach on foot. The landscape was hellish. Jagged ice formations mixed with pools of liquid methane under a sky filled with toxic clouds. They moved steadily through terrain no Miserian would expect anything to navigate willingly. Approaching outer perimeter, whispered Seojin over the team comms. Sensors ahead. They froze as a Miserian patrol passed nearby, the aliens completely unaware of the humans in their midst. The Miserians had designed their security systems to detect ships and energy signatures, not individuals moving slowly on foot. The aliens have never faced predators like us, Seojin told his team as they reached the facility and began planting explosives at structural weak points. We evolved hunting on a death world. They evolved hiding. Inside the facility's command center, a junior sensor technician noticed an unusual reading. Sir, I'm detecting trace heat signatures outside the western entrance. Very faint. The Miserian security chief waved dismissively. Probably another methane eruption. This moon is geologically active. But sir, run the standard diagnostic and reset the sensor grid. We're looking for human ships, not ghosts. Seojin's team finished placing the final charges and began their withdrawal. They were halfway back to the asteroid when the facility's alarms finally sounded. They've spotted us, said Seojin calmly. Detonate now. His explosives specialist triggered the charges remotely. The refueling station erupted in a series of massive explosions, each more powerful than the last as the stored fuel ignited. The shockwave knocked the team off their feet despite their distance. Patrols incoming from 3 directions, reported his scanner technician. Seojin assessed the situation instantly. New extraction plan. Team Bravo, create a diversion to the north. Team Alpha with me to the emergency extraction point. They split up, moving through toxic gas clouds that would kill Miserians instantly, but that their suits could withstand. Team Bravo planted smaller explosive charges to draw attention, while Team Alpha made for a backup extraction point where a stealth shuttle could reach them. By the time the Miserians realized what had happened, the humans were gone, leaving behind a destroyed facility and deeply shaken defenders. On board the ghost ship Phantom Blade Seojin and his team removed their environmental suits and celebrated their success. Did you see their faces when they finally spotted us? Laughed one of the soldiers. They couldn't believe anything could survive out there. They still don't understand what they're fighting. Seojin replied. And that's our advantage. Back in the Miserian High Council chamber, the mood was grim. Intercepted communications were played for the assembled leaders. These humans, a Miserian field commander's voice echoed through the room. They're not afraid. They laugh during combat. They willingly enter environments that would kill us instantly. They seem to thrive in conditions we consider impossible. Another recording. It's like they were made for war. They can go without sleep for days. They can function with injuries that would incapacitate any Miserian. They're persistence predators. They never stop coming. High Counselor Ranu silenced the recordings. We underestimated these creatures, he admitted. What began as a simple conquest has become something else entirely. Should we consider diplomatic options? Suggested a younger counselor. Ranu's mouth flaps contracted in a gesture of disgust. The Miserian Imperium does not negotiate with lesser species. We will increase our forces. We will launch our attack on their homeworld as planned. We will crush them with overwhelming strength. But as he spoke, doubt crept into his hearts for the first time in his long military career. These humans were unlike any species the Imperium had encountered. They didn't fight like prey animals defending territory. They'd fought like predators who had found new hunting grounds. And the Miserians, for the first time in centuries, found themselves feeling like prey. Fleet Lord Unjin stood on the command deck of the Miserian super dreadnought *, Inevitable Victory *, the largest warship ever built by the Imperium. Around her, stretched across 50 light minutes of space, was the most powerful armada the Miserians had ever assembled. Over 300 warships, including 20 dreadnoughts, 50 heavy cruisers, and countless smaller vessels, all for one primitive world. 8 months of delays and failures end today. Yunjin addressed her command staff. The human harassment of our supply line stops. Their interference in Miserian affairs stops. Their very existence as a free species stops. Her officers nodded in agreement, but Yunjin noticed something in their eyes she had never seen before. Uncertainty. The humans had proven far more troublesome than expected. The ghost ship attacks, the traps at their outposts, the infiltration operations deep within Miserian territory. The humans have clever tactics, she acknowledged, but they lack our numbers, our technology, and our glorious history of conquest. Today we crush them, as we have crushed 17 species before them. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Unjin had studied the human home system carefully. 9 planets, with the third being their homeworld. A primitive defense fleet would likely be clustered around their planet. Advance at combat speed, she ordered. Launch scout vessels ahead. The armada moved forward, passing the outer planets without incident. No human resistance yet. This encouraged Unjin. Perhaps they had given up. As they approached the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets, the scout vessels suddenly went silent. What happened? Unjin demanded. Unknown, Fleet Lord, replied her sensor officer. The scouts just disappeared. Impossible. Check again. Before the officer could respond, dozens of tiny objects appeared on the sensor display, emerging from hiding places within the asteroid belt. They moved with impossible speed, streaking toward the Miserian fleet. Drones, reported the tactical officer. Thousands of them. Small, unmanned craft. Yunjin's mouth flaps twitched in amusement. Target and destroy them. The lead Miserian ships opened fire, their energy weapons lashing out at the approaching swarm. Some drones exploded, but most evaded with maneuvers that would have killed any living pilot. They're too fast, the tactical officer reported with alarm. Evasion patterns unlike anything in our. His words cut off as the first drones reached the Miserian formation. Instead of firing weapons, they simply rammed into the ships at incredible speed. Each impact was small, but there were thousands of impacts across hundreds of ships. Shields holding at 82%, reported the defensive systems officer. But they keep coming. As the first wave of drones finished their suicide runs, a second wave emerged from hiding. These didn't ram the ships, but instead attached themselves to hull sections where shields had been weakened. By the first egg, what are they doing? Unjin whispered as she watched the tactical display. The answer came moments later as the attached drones detonated simultaneously, each explosion precisely targeted at shield generators and weapon emplacements. Shields failing on multiple vessels, reported the communications officer, panic evident in his voice. 7 destroyers reporting critical damage. 3 cruisers have lost weapon systems. Yunjin stared at the display in disbelief. These were not random attacks. Each drone had targeted specific vulnerabilities in Miserian ship design. Vulnerabilities the humans shouldn't have known about. Continue the advance, she ordered. Full combat alert. All ships to close formation. The fleet pushed forward, past Mars, the red planet where human outposts had once stood. As they approached Earth's moon, Yunjin finally saw what she expected, the human defense fleet. It was smaller than her own by far, perhaps 90 vessels of various sizes, none as large as her dreadnoughts. She allowed herself a moment of relief. "Enemy fleet detected," she announced. "Prepare for conventional engagement." But then her sensor officer made a startling report. "Fleet Lord, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures around Earth itself. Thousands of them." The tactical display zoomed in on Earth's orbit. What Yunjin saw made her 4 hearts beat faster. The humans had built a defensive ring around their planet, hundreds of orbital platforms bristling with weapons, and between the platforms swarmed tens of thousands of smaller objects. "By the stars," Yunjin whispered as her flagship's sensors detected thousands of AI-controlled drone swarms and soldiers in advanced combat suits moving between the platforms. Some appeared to be enhanced with technology that blended seamlessly with their biology. "They've been preparing for us," she realized. "All these months of delays." On Earth's largest orbital defense platform, designated Alpha, Colonel Ji-hoon watched the approaching Mazarian fleet with calm determination. For 8 months, humanity had bought time with guerrilla tactics and psychological warfare. They had studied the enemy, learned their weaknesses, and prepared accordingly. "All platforms report ready," his second-in-command informed him. "Drone swarms at 100% capacity. The fleet is in position." Ji-hoon nodded. "They've come in exactly as we predicted. Arrogant, overconfident, maintaining tight formation to maximize their overlapping shields." He opened a channel to all Earth Defense Forces. "This is Colonel Ji-hoon. The enemy has arrived with the force we anticipated. They expect us to fight as they do, head on, strength against strength." He smiled slightly. "We will not oblige them. Execute Operation Nightmare." Throughout Earth's orbit, defense platforms and ships activated specialized systems that Earth scientists had developed based on captured Mazarian technology. The Mazarian fleet continued its advance, now within striking distance of Earth's defensive perimeter. "Open fire," ordered Yunjin. "All ships, all weapons." The Mazarian fleet unleashed its fury, energy weapons, and projectiles streaking toward the human defenders. At the same moment, the Earth forces responded, not with a similar barrage, but with something entirely unexpected. From the defense platforms erupted not weapons fire, but a wave of energy that washed over the Mazarian fleet. Ship after ship reported the same alarming result. "Shields failing," called Yunjin's defensive officer. "Some kind of resonance field is disrupting the frequency modulation." "Impossible," Yunjin snapped. "No species has ever penetrated our shield technology." But the evidence was undeniable. The human weapons that followed the energy wave struck Mazarian ships directly, bypassing shields that had protected them for centuries. Even worse, the projectiles seemed designed specifically to react with Mazarian hull materials, burning through armor that should have been impenetrable. Multiple ships reporting critical damage, the communications officer reported, no longer trying to hide his panic. "The humans are targeting our engine cores and weapon systems with precision strikes." Yunjin stared at the tactical display in horror as she watched her mighty fleet coming apart. Decades of Mazarian military doctrine taught that superior numbers and technology always prevailed. But the humans weren't fighting according to any doctrine the Mazarians understood. The human fleet moved with unexpected coordination, smaller vessels protecting larger ones, all of them executing complex maneuvers that scattered the Mazarian formation. And everywhere, those damn drones swarmed, each one seemingly programmed to target specific vulnerabilities. "We need to regroup," Yunjin ordered. "Pull back tow." A massive explosion cut off her words as one of her dreadnoughts erupted in flames. Then another. The carefully maintained Mazarian formation began to break as ship captains took evasive action without coordination. As the Mazarian fleet fell into chaos, Colonel Ji-hoon opened a communication channel that broadcast to every enemy vessel. "Attention Mazarian fleet," his voice echoed through Yunjin's command deck. "This is Colonel Ji-hoon of Earth Defense Force. We studied your ships. We learned your weaknesses. We improved on your designs. The message continued, clinical and precise. Your shields cycle through 12 frequency bands. We designed weapons to strike during a microsecond transition between bands 6 and 7. Your hull alloy contains traces of element JX117. We created projectiles that catalyze a reaction that dissolves it on contact. Unjin listened with growing horror as the human methodically listed vulnerability after vulnerability that should have been unknown to any species but the Miserians themselves. You attacked our colony without provocation, Jihun concluded. You declared war on humanity thinking we were weak. That was a mistake. We are giving you one chance to retreat. Any Miserian vessel remaining in this system in 30 minutes will be destroyed. Unjin looked at the tactical display. Nearly 1/3 of her fleet was already destroyed or disabled. The human defenses remained largely intact. Fleet Lord, her second-in-command, spoke quietly. We should consider a tactical withdrawal. We can return with. The Miserian Imperium does not retreat. Unjin snapped, though even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. The Imperium had never faced an enemy like this before. Another dreadnought exploded, its reactor core breached by weapons that shouldn't exist. Then another. Order the retreat, Yunjin finally said, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. All vessels to fall back and regroup at Rally Point Omega. As the remnants of the once mighty armada turned and fled, Yunjin watched the human homeworld recede on her view screen. They had underestimated these creatures from the beginning, a mistake the Miserian Imperium had never made before, and one they might not survive. The remnants of the Miserian fleet limped back to their territory, a shocking defeat that the Imperium had never experienced in its 3 centuries of expansion. Fleet Lord Unjin, once the pride of the Miserian military, now faced the shame of reporting the disaster to Emperor Sunwu himself. Impossible, the Emperor said after hearing her report. His 4 hearts beat rapidly in his chest, an unusual sensation of fear that no emperor had felt in generations. No species has ever repelled a full Miserian assault. The humans were prepared, Your Majesty, Yunjin replied, her scales pale with exhaustion. They knew our weaknesses. They had studied us while we underestimated them. The imperial chamber fell silent. Dozens of counselors and military leaders exchanged worried glances. For centuries, the Miserian doctrine had been simple: identify worlds, demand submission, conquer those who refused. Never had they encountered a species that could fight back so effectively. What do our intelligence reports tell us about these humans? The Emperor finally asked. High Scientist Minji stepped forward, a data tablet in her hands. Your Majesty, I have been studying the information we gathered from their colony and subsequent encounters. What we've learned is disturbing. She activated a holographic display showing a 3-dimensional image of a human. Humans evolved on what we would classify as a death world. Their planet experiences temperature variations that would kill most Miserians without protective equipment. From polar ice to scorching deserts, from toxic volcanic regions to storm systems that could level our cities. The display changed to show early humans hunting large animals. They evolved as pursuit predators. While most species in the galaxy evolved to flee from danger or fight only when cornered, humans evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They can regulate their body temperature through sweating, allowing them to run for hours or even days when hunting. Emperor Sunwu leaned forward, fascinated despite his concern. How did this affect their development? These creatures, Minji explained, showing biological scans, hunted by exhausting prey, developed on a planet with extreme environmental variations, and possess a capacity to find humor in horror. Their neural patterns show they actually produce pleasure chemicals when solving problems under pressure. The display shifted to captured footage of human soldiers during an operation against a Miserian outpost. Despite being under fire, several were laughing as they advanced through the bombardment. Sunwu stared at the footage. They're not fighting this war, he realized. They're winning it. They're enjoying it. Precisely, Your Majesty, Minji confirmed. While we see war as a necessary evil to expand our territory, humans see it as a challenge that drives innovation. They've advanced their technology more in the 8 months since we attacked their colony than they had in the previous decade. The Emperor's expression darkened. And now, what is their likely next move? As if in answer to his question, an aide rushed into the chamber. Your Majesty, we're detecting multiple faster-than-light signatures approaching the home system. Human vessels. Panic spread through the chamber. The homeworld had never been threatened before. How many ships? Demanded the Emperor. Just one, Your Majesty. But it's massive, unlike anything we've seen before. In space near the Mazarian homeworld, a single human vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It dwarfed even the largest Mazarian dreadnought, a city in space that humanity had constructed in secret during the months of conflict. On its command deck, Admiral Yuna stood calmly as her ship took position. She had been given command of the Asterisk, humanity's response Asterisk, a vessel built with a single purpose: to end the war on human terms. Open a channel to the Mazarian capital, she ordered. All frequencies. I want every citizen on their world to hear this. On the Mazarian homeworld, screens throughout the capital suddenly activated, showing the face of a human female. Even Emperor Sunwoo's private chamber was not immune as the transmission overrode their security protocols. People of the Mazarian Imperium. Admiral Yuna spoke, her voice translated perfectly into the Mazarian language. I am Admiral Yuna of Earth. 8 months ago, your forces destroyed our colony at Proxima Centauri, killing 50,000 innocent humans. You declared war on humanity, expecting easy conquest. You were mistaken. She paused, letting the words sink in. My ship carries weapons capable of rendering your homeworld uninhabitable in minutes. The same weapons are now aimed at every major Mazarian world. We could wipe out your species today. In the Imperial Palace, officials scrambled to respond. Military leaders called for immediate counterattacks, but Emperor Sunwoo silenced them with a gesture, continuing to watch the transmission. But unlike you, Yuna continued, we do not destroy civilizations simply because we can. We offer you a choice. The Mazarian Empire will immediately cease all hostile actions against human territories. You will withdraw from the 6 worlds you conquered in the past decade and allow those species self-determination. You will provide reparations for the lives lost at Proxima Centauri. Her expression remained calm but firm. You have 6 hours to respond. If we do not receive your unconditional acceptance, we will demonstrate our capabilities on your uninhabited 4th moon. After that demonstration, you will have 1 additional hour to reconsider before we target your populated worlds. The transmission ended, leaving the Mazarian leadership in stunned silence. Can they really do what they claim? The Emperor asked Minji. The scientist nodded slowly. Based on how quickly they adapted our own technology and improved upon it. Yes, I believe they can. For 4 hours, the Mazarian leadership debated options. Some advocated fighting to the last Mazarian. Others suggested a counterattack. But as reports from their long-range sensors confirmed the human claims about weapons locked on all major Mazarian worlds, the reality became clear. They had no choice. 2 hours before the deadline, Emperor Sunwoo personally responded to the human ultimatum. We accept your terms, he said simply, the most humiliating moment in Mazarian history captured for all time. 3 weeks later, peace negotiations began on a neutral space station constructed specifically for the purpose. Ambassador Jaehyun represented Earth, facing a delegation of Mazarian officials across a large table. The terms are non-negotiable, Jaehyun stated as the Mazarians attempted to modify the reparations requirements. You started this war. We are being merciful in ending it. The Mazarian Imperium has ruled the stars for 3 centuries, protested the lead Mazarian negotiator. You cannot expect us to simply surrender territories and pay tributes like a conquered race. Jaehyun's expression remained neutral. You're not conquered. You're defeated. There's a difference. Had we wished to conquer you, Your homeworld would now be a lifeless rock. He leaned forward slightly. Humanity has no interest in empire. We prefer peace, but we excel at war. Remember that before you consider breaking these terms in the future. The negotiations concluded with the Miserians accepting all human demands. As news spread throughout the galaxy, other spacefaring civilizations adjusted their assessments of the newcomers. Species that had considered approaching human territory, with similar demands now reconsidered. Trade delegations replaced planned invasion forces. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Sunwoo stood at a window overlooking his capital city. Beside him, Minji presented her final report on humanity. "The most remarkable thing," she said, "is that they've already moved on. They're not celebrating their victory. They're building, exploring, creating art and music about the conflict. To them, this was just another challenge overcome. Will they become the new imperial power in the galaxy?" The Emperor asked quietly. Minji considered the question. "I don't believe so. They don't think like us. They don't need to control to feel secure. But they will remember those who threatened them, and they will be ready if threatened again." Across the galaxy, humanity continued its expansion into the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers and traders. They made alliances with some species, conducted commerce with others. They shared certain technologies freely while keeping others carefully guarded. And throughout the galactic community, a simple message spread. The humans are a species that should never be provoked. They prefer peace, but they excel at war. The Miserians had learned this truth at devastating cost. Others would be wise to learn from their mistake. The end.